Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you live on the iHeart Radio Network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the iHeart Radio Network. I also want to thank all of our Twitters out in Latin America, so bienvenidos to you. Also London, England, as well as Berlin, Germany, and the great country of Canada, as well as the good old boys down in Australia. Big C, I know we have a lot of heat here on the West Coast in California, but I hear you good old boys, it's always thundering and lightning down south. So how you holding up in the rain, Big C?
You know, the thunder and lightning, Charlton, is always just a prelude of the heat. We have that humidity that's running around here, messing up my hair during the day, so I'm kind of worried about that.
I thought you were bald head, Big C. I thought you were bald head.
Oh, my bad. That's what messed up my hair was all that erosion from the rain and stuff,
Well, when it comes to hairdos, Big C, I'm sure a lot of people may not understand culturally what this means, but I remember when I was a young boy, and one of the worst fads in the history of the world was called the Jerry curl. I remember I had a nice afro. Someone convinced me to put a Jerry curl in my hair. Not only did it mess up all my clothes, Big C, but my hair turned orange like Carrot Top, and then my hair wouldn't grow as fast, Big C. All the furniture around the house, that was messed up too, because I had to keep putting grease or whatever kind of spray they had. Did you ever go through that phase, or was that just a California thing, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I think I didn't have enough money to buy anything. I barely could afford to comb my hair. So,
Okay.
that's where the term natural came from.
Yeah.
I was just all natural. So, the hair fad, I don't think that, that affected, the area that I was in that much. But,
yeah.
It's like everything in life, Charlton. It's a trendy thing. Sports are trendy. Lifestyles are trendy.
Yeah.
To see clothes change. I remember as a young man in the 60s, Charlton, where the skinny pants were the thing, where they got tight down towards the ankles. And if you go back and you look at old film clips and video clips like the American Bandstand show with Dick Clark.
Oh, Dick Clark, yeah.
Films of that nature.
Yeah.
You will see that. You'll see the entertainers on stage, the Temptations, James Brown, the Four Tops, with those tight skinny pants. That's the fad again now, Charlton, here in 2015, 16. Where men are wearing these tight pants that go down to the ankles, and they think that's something new. If you went into your grandparents, great-grandparents' closets or trunks that they've kept, you'll find those clothes for free.
Well, remember the day, I think it was called, Eddie Murphy had a movie called, I think it was 48 Hours. It was he and Nick Nolte. There was also one called Beverly Hills Cop. And, of course, down in Beverly Hills, people tend to wear a lot of leather, Big C. It's the real kind of leather, not that fake stuff, okay? So you sweat.
How many pair of leather pants you got in your clothes?
Actually, the ones that I can fit, I have two. I can only fit, like, none of them.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
When you represent the Charlton and Big C show, don't go outside with them on.
Well, boy, even if I wanted to, Big C, I think they either shrunk or I blew up a little bit. I think also there's an actor, a funny actor by the name of Keenan Ivory Wayans, and he played in a movie, and he played in so many of them, but he had this red suit on, and he was trying to act like he was Rick James. And you know how Rick James used to party a lot.
Well, that movie, Charlton, was called Hollywood Shuffle.
Hollywood Shuffle. I knew you would know the name of it.
Robert Townsend. Let me tell you a little bit about Robert Townsend. Robert Townsend in the early 80s tried to get a movie financed.
Yeah.
He could not find anybody in Hollywood to finance his movie. Robert Townsend went out and applied for a lot of credit cards. He ended up with over $100,000 in credit line from these credit cards.
Yeah.
Robert Townsend put together this movie called Hollywood Shuffle. Great group of actors. If you think about all the Wayans family.
Oh, amazing.
He had all of them in. David Allen Greer was in the movie.
Yeah.
Several other prominent actors. Even
I think Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx was also in there too.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, the actor.
Jim Carrey,
all of these people worked with Robert Townsend and got their start. Robert Townsend made over $4 million profit off his $100,000 investment from credit cards. Eventually ended up with a show on HBO.
Yeah.
But that shows you when you live your dream, when you pursue your dream, Charlton, that you can go out and achieve.
Yeah.
And by him being so steadfast about achieving and pursuing his dream, look at the dozens of careers that he launched, Charlton, from his efforts. people that believed in him became American success stories.
Well, speaking of American success story, this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, remember, you can only get it there new, and let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. If you've ever driven the Escalade, you know it's luxurious, it's powerful, and it's full of power. So also, Big C, you brought up something about what Robert Townsend did, and that's the same thing that we're talking about with Charlton and Big C Sports. I know here in Sacramento, California, just over the weekend at Sacramento City College, that's where a lot of the kids come together, different ethnic groups. There's some other schools that have more of a sparse interaction, but Sacramento City College, just off of downtown, is a very diverse group. And I think they're caught on to what Jim Brown was talking about, even though you brought it up first. And they were trying to tell people that computers are more important than shoes, they're more important than the next uniform, they're more important than anything. And ironically, they caught on to something that Mayor Johnson has kind of put together, and they're talking about how do you create what's called the inner city Silicon Valleys. Because as we talk about the job market, and I know Donald Trump was talking about Detroit having a high rate of unemployment with the automotive industry shipping out parts and other industries overseas. I know Ford is building a plant in Mexico if it's not already done. But they were saying, what you brought up, Big C, the way you solve the economy is teach people to follow the Fortune 500, the stock market. If we can do that in the world of sports, what bigger platform do you have to reach young people? I mean, Phil Knight has done a wonderful job selling shoes, and we're also asking Phil for that $1 million sponsorship. But could you imagine what would happen to the American economy over the next 2 to 4 years if we taught all of our inner city school districts and even people who are our age, Big C, to understand the stock market? They would be less predicated on finding a job that's going to go overseas anyway. Big C, your thoughts on that? Go right ahead, Big C. I don't know if you can hear me right now, Big C, but you think about the fact of the stock market, and you talk about it all the time. How do we get people to understand that if you want a job, you got to go create the job, Big C? And they talked about that too. And so now that they've done it here in Sacramento, California, I just want to get your thoughts on how that goes with what you were saying. Learn about the stock market. It's just like the sports world. Once you spend some time getting better, you can actually make yourself independent, Big C. You go right ahead, sir.
Well, Charlton, when you think about the stock market has always been the past, the present, and the future of America and of the world. And, you know, to have Donald Trump speak about the auto industry in Detroit, where has he been for the last 30, 40 years in America, Charlton?
Yeah.
It just has not been there. It moved out of Detroit years ago. The decay in Detroit didn't happen with this past presidency. The previous president prior to that, it happened post-Reagan. That's when it happened. He allowed that to run away. But when you think about the economics of the computer, Charlton, the world is run by computers now. If you look at it, the world's second largest airline, Charlton, was brought to a halt today.
Yeah, Delta.
Delta Airlines was brought to a halt because of computer glitch. Now you think about the hundreds of thousands of people that were put on standby because of this. They could not move throughout the country. Sports teams could not travel, Charlton. The basic workforce could not travel because of a computer glitch. This is why computers are so important in the inner city, Charlton, well beyond athletes. You know, you sit there and talk, oh, he has such a great body, he's so tall. We've heard that our entire lives in the inner city and in the rural areas, Charlton.
Yeah.
He looks like an athlete. You know, because you look like an athlete doesn't mean you don't have a brain. Like we talked about the late Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh, yeah.
Huge hulking man, 6'5", 325 pounds. Scared anybody when he walked in the room. So he had to come through the door sideways.
Played in the Green Mile, with Tom Hanks.
Let me give you a guy who played in your area for the Golden State Warriors. He was drafted in the 80s.
Yeah.
His name was Adonal Foyle. Okay?
Yeah.
He was out of the Ivy League. He was a 6'10" center. He had 2 master's degrees when the Golden State Warriors drafted him. He was playing pro basketball as a hobby until he got bored and decided to retire after 7 years because he had his lifelong ambition of having these master's degrees and put them to work.
Yeah.
And this was an African-American, Charlton. So when you sit around and you think about that all a guy with a great body can do is be an athlete, the world has pigeonholed these people to thinking that that's all they can achieve. Economic world, beyond the sports world, will always be there. You have a small window as a professional athlete, Charlton, 3 to 7 years if you make a team. 3 to 7 years. And if you don't make it, where are you? It's just like this rookie with the San Diego Chargers, Joey Bosa, holding out. He's the number 3 overall pick. He was already slated by the Players Association to how much money he can make. A cap. And here he is holding the San Diego Chargers ransom. Now, Charlton, the San Diego Chargers drafted 3rd in the NFL draft this last April, May, whenever it was. So that means they weren't a very good team.
Exactly.
And so if you got your number 1 draft pick saying that I'm going to make your team a playoff team and I only play one side of the ball and that's on defense. And I'm better than J.J. Watt, sign him. But if he's not, cut off negotiations, let him sit at home and watch you and miss out on that $18 million.
And see, Big C, this is something, too, because in the world of sports, you know, I love the fact that we can use it as a platform. And I always think about what would Muhammad Ali say if he had the chance to have his own program. And then we know he's known well by everybody all over the world, at least people who follow the sports business. But I think about this gentleman in Sacramento, California, and he's a city councilman by the name of Warren Adams. Now, this gentleman grew up in North Sacramento called Del Paso Heights. He's 52 years old. He's a multi-millionaire. He actually had a chance to play with the New York Yankees until he blew out his knee. He was there at the same time that Deion Sanders was playing Major League Baseball. But what this guy did to create his millions is he came back home, and he grew up in a poor part of town. It's not like he had a silver spoon in his mouth. But this gentleman took all of his knowledge and his acumen, and he created real estate, kind of a real estate empire, and he became a developer. Now, the great thing about this guy is he's African-American, okay? The great thing about Mr. Warren, he's saying in the northern Sacramento area, he wants to create a high-tech industry. Now, in most inner cities, let's just realize that most of them are controlled by people of color, or they lived in by people of color, where the jobs have left and the opportunities left, the schools aren't that great. But here's a guy that's doing what you and I are talking about. He just happens to be African-American. He's not saying let's set up a place where we can sell Nike tennis shoes or Reebok or Adidas, and that's great. We still want Uncle Phil to give us that $1 million sponsorship. But here's what a young African-American man did with his money. He's creating computer centers so people can learn to think like they think in Silicon Valley, down in the south part of the Bay Area, where most of these people have, I think there's more billionaires in the Silicon Valley than anywhere in California, and therefore anywhere in the United States. It just so happens that most of those people are Asian or Caucasian, Big C. There's not a large African-American influence, not because people keep you out of it. You can learn the computer industry even if you get free information, Big C, whether it's Ninja Trader or other platforms. But here's a guy that put his money behind it. He realized that athletics is just a start. It's not an ending. So I appreciate Warren Adams. I'm actually going to meet him pretty soon up here in Sacramento. And he's developed over 400 real estate properties on his own dime by connecting people with resources that have the same thoughts that you have, Big C. Your thoughts on how other people can copycat that throughout the country, Big C, especially athletes.
Well, Chuck, when you think about a lot of the young athletes in America, starting even at the youth level, okay, these are some of the greatest computer operators in America. When you think about these children sitting down playing the Madden game, the NBA 2016, the Tiger Woods golf, you know, any of these video games that are on PlayStation and Xbox.
Yeah.
And they sit there and they can run the simulation so efficiently, Charlton. But this simulation that these young athletes are running are not economical because they're vicariously fantasizing through someone else.
Yeah.
Instead of making their life reality where they take what they've learned in these electronic platforms, Charlton, that they apply a fantasy sports game to. They can apply fantasy money by getting a trading platform, Charlton, learning how to be economically efficient. And we're not getting off the sports base, Charlton, but even if you make it as a professional athlete, Charlton, like I said, your window of success is 3 to 7 years. That's not a long career. But while you're doing that as an athlete on the high school level, on the college level, on the professional level, you can learn to be economically efficient and be a prominent member in society, not just a guy in society, Charlton.
Well, speaking of being a prominent member in society, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What could a buck do for you, Big C? I tell you, it's only about $40 million this time. I mean, I kind of feel like Joey Bosa, only $40 million, but I bought the winning ticket anyway, Big C. Joey Bosa, I feel your pain. You want that $100 million contract. You want that Big C kind of money, but go out and spend a buck on it and invest in your future. It's just a buck, and get rid of junk food, buy a buck. The California Lottery, half of the proceeds go to help schools. Now, Big C, in the sports program, we're going to get into the Olympics a little bit later, but I want to bring up something. We talk about being socially conscious, and I just told you what this councilman here named Alan Warren here in Sacramento is doing with inner city neighborhoods. He's buying up lots, and he's building residential properties, multi-residential properties, and he's creating computer labs so that people can learn how to be stockbrokers, or how they can be insurance brokers or real estate brokers, not to be the next athlete. Now contrast that with what Jim Brown, Harry Edwards, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and yourself talked about. ESPN, coming up I think later this month in August, they're running a 2-day marathon on fantasy football. Fantasy football that does nothing for you intellectually. It's kind of for people who are intellectually vapid to just pretend they're going to do something. What if ESPN used their platform, which is a sports platform that Muhammad Ali already told us about? And I know the great Michael Jordan said he felt bad being a sycophant for so many years, having a person with so much influence but saying nothing. He didn't mind being considered the dumb jock. And it's just a fact. If you don't mind someone thinking of you that way, then just keep saying nothing. But here's ESPN. They could do the same thing on doing trading, teaching athletes how to trade, how they can understand what the Fortune 500 companies do, how they can understand what Wall Street does. They could use that platform for that. But what are they doing? They're going to play freaking fantasy football. I mean, what does that do to increase our economy? It doesn't do anything. It just has people sit around doing nothing. So, Big C, I think that I would hope that ESPN, out of all the times we've talked about having a social consciousness, that they would have more intellect about themselves and how to give back to young people who watch sports, young and old. It would make more sense for our economy if they start to take that time to engage people in the stock market, Big C. Just your thoughts on that, and we'll get into some sports.
Well, you know, ESPN is a wonderful network, Charlton. They've been a worldwide leader for many years on many different levels. But when you talk about sitting up playing this fantasy football, it's no different than OJ versus America, whatever that series that they had on.
Yeah.
It's that you're leading people down a path of distraction, Charlton, against what reality is.
Yeah.
You know, all this fantasy football is setting up another gambling network.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it.
That's all it is. But you're taking people and you're making them play this fantasy. And, you know, people are living their lives on it. It's like what I talked about last week, where we talked about golfing, how difficult golfing is if you're young, married with children.
Yeah.
That you can't walk away and leave the wife for 4 to 5 hours. And that's what this fantasy football does, Charlton. It takes people away from family structure. And so far as what kids need, take this for example. If ESPN taught dads how to spend time with their sons, teaching them economics, even teaching them working with sports, Charlton.
Yeah.
Instead of being off just hanging with the boys, create some family time and have that thing working together, that's where we would be better off.
Yep.
I mean, if dads would take their kids to more games, you know, I remember that as a young man. Being able to go to a baseball stadium, even though we only sit out there in the bleachers, Charlton.
Yeah.
But that was some of the greatest times in life. And anybody in my age bracket, when they think about going to a Major League Baseball game in the summer,
yeah,
you got that hot dog, you got that Coke, and Dad bought you a pennant or a baseball cap.
Yeah.
That was Christmas.
Yeah.
That was Christmas in July, Charlton.
Well,
so, you know, this is what we don't have enough of in the sports world.
Yeah.
Is mentorship from parents.
Yeah.
Take your kids to games, spend some time, because you're forced to talk to them also, Charlton.
Well, think about it.
Talk to your kids, you know what's going on in life.
Well, Big C, as we get into the sports segment, I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by United Labor Insurance. I'm a life insurance broker with United Labor. We offer insurance to all of the unions in the United States under the AFL-CIO. We are also endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. I'm looking to hire 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to go to work and offer guaranteed issue life insurance up to $100,000, no medical questions asked, and we offer it to the unions. So if you're looking to go to work, tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. We're also on Facebook, and tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. Also, Big C, I just want to bring this up because I think it's so powerful in the world of sports. I mean, I want to be able to give back, and I appreciate what some young people are doing. Alan Warren's only 52 years old. I would hope that ESPN would do some of the same thing as we start to put people back to work again. And when we think about that also, Big C, I'm thinking about this program that's coming up here with the Olympics. And we know that the Olympics is going on right now in Brazil, and a lot of people are having a great time. And we have all the great athletes that went down to Brazil, and we talked about the Zika virus, and we talked about how much entertainment they're going to have in Brazil, and that's something that we always want to think about too, Big C. So when we come back and we talk about the Olympics, just keep this in mind. You have Serena Williams and you have Venus Williams, two dominant athletes in the world of sports, and they went down there and they actually lost in their tennis tournament. And you don't see, Serena and Venus losing often. But what do you think? Did they just get distracted, or did they get bitten by the bug down there, Big C? No pun intended.
well, I think there was two things, Charlton. It was twofold when you look at it. Is that this is their first loss in the first round of a major competition ever. But they also, you got the Zika virus. More time you spend outside, the better chances you are of being bitten.
Yeah.
But I think they wanted to be around the hottest part of the Olympics. And that was Simone Biles, who is a great physical specimen, gorgeous young lady, African American, on the gymnastics team.
Yes.
She's probably the greatest gymnast of all time. You're talking about taking Mary Lou Retton. You're talking about taking Olga Corbett. You're talking about taking the girl that won a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think her name is Gabby. Is it Gabby? That's her name?
Gabby Douglas.
Yeah.
You're talking about taking all of that and wrapping it in one package, Charlotte. The things that she did in the Olympic trials were just phenomenal. And, this is what the world is waiting on. And this is somebody that's equivalent to a Michael Phelps in the pool.
Yeah.
What she can do on the floor, on the beam, on the rings. She is just a tremendous 4'8" power plug, Charlton.
Well, Michael Phelps got number 19 last night in the relays. He's, an incredible swimmer. And something about Michael Phelps, too. I'm proud of him. I know they had him on camera. I think he had something. He was blowing up his nose, Big C, or smoking up his nose. And that's silly. People make mistakes. But here's a young man that got back on track, and he's kept his body in peak shape. And all it shows is that no one is perfect. There's only people who pretend to be. So I'm proud of Phelps and what he was able to do. Coming back, getting gold medal number 19, still a young man, Big C. But that just shows what focus can do when young people are focused. So the Americans, the basketball teams are dominant. I know some of the crowds are a little bit sparse down in Brazil. But I just want to say that congratulations to all the American teams down there, and especially the athletes that go down there. But even with all the threat of the Zika virus and some of the violence that goes on down there, they're able to stay focused, and they're still having a great job of competing, Big C. So good job, Mr. Phelps, but also Big C in the world of golf. Now here's a man in Jim Furyk. He shot 58. That's a PGA Tour mark, and this gentleman's 46 years old, just setting the course on fire. If you look at players who went low, you look at guys like Jim Furyk, Chip Beck, David Duval had a 59 back in 1999, and then Jim Furyk at 59 also in 2013. What are your thoughts on him as a golfer? Just a great tournament for him.
Well, Charlton, you think about shooting 58 now. I've done that on the front five.
No, he did all 18, Big C.
I didn't even make it to 9, and I had 58.
And he walked the course too, Big C. He didn't drive it like you, just Escalade.
So when you think about what Jim Furyk did amongst the history of great golfers in the world, we talk of Lee Trevino, Lee Elder, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and the young guns now, McIlroy, Spieth. The 58. I mean, any golfer says no. He had to cheat somewhere. That's what you want to think. But you look at Furyk, you take your hat off to him, you toss your gloves in the air.
Yeah.
But who won the tournament?
Yeah.
No one knows. No one cares.
Yeah.
Jim Furyk shot a 58. That shows you the state of the PGA now post-Tiger Woods, Charlton.
Yeah.
Without Tiger Woods, it's irrelevant until someone like the great Jim Furyk shoots a 58 to bring an interest back into golf.
Well,
Tiger Woods has spoiled people for so long in this great game, Charlton, is that now with his exodus, it's meaningless. But Jim Furyk shooting a masterful 58, I mean, that's perfection. On the course, Charlton.
Well, he's 3 years after becoming the sixth player on tour with a 59. You know, at 46 years old, he shot a 58 at the Travelers Championships. But I still will say that we talk about this world of inclusion and social consciousness. No one asked him about anything to do with how to get back to young kids the way Michael Jordan and LeBron James are talking about. So I just want to keep that in mind. I think that's part of what golf is missing. I think, Big C, this is what I really feel. I think our society is not as intellectually vapid as people want them to be. And if you don't really stand for anything, a lot of intelligent people will tune out. I think that's why Nike pulled out of golf also. And I want to bring this up because...
Well, Charlton, let me tell you about Nike. Okay, Nike only followed the trend. Who was the first major sponsor to pull out of the PGA Championship? Cadillac. If you go back earlier this spring when Cadillac pulled out of Donald Trump's tournament.
Went down to Mexico.
They were no longer sponsored. So it's been a whirlwind of great American sponsors and world sponsors that have pulled out of golf. You know, with lack of minority interest, and I'll put it there truly, lack of minority interest, because Tiger Woods was that minority that brought everybody into the game. Tiger, you still hear Tiger 10 years after he won his last major championship. That's how important and relevant that he was to the sport, Charlton. And people, you don't know what you have until it's gone. You sit there and you make fun of something, and all of a sudden it's gone. 2-3 years later, you realize, wow, we had it great.
Big C, are you talking about? Are you talking about that college love that got away, Big C? Because you keep going reminiscing about that college love, Big C, the one that got away. Don't worry, she'll be back. Okay. But I just want to also say, this segment is also sponsored by you, One Life America Life Insurance. I'm a life insurance broker with One Life America. We are the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. I'm also looking to employ 1,000 insurance brokers to help offer final expense to the United States to help families out there in need. Also, I want to thank Becca, the Business Cupid, for helping hook up sponsors down the road. And I also want to say this, Big C, because in the world of everything that we do, the sports, we talked about it before, and I hear more and more people saying it. Even ESPN did a study on it, and they're saying that sports will bring people together more than the church. And of course, you know, go to any church out there and we all love to worship, but most churches are segregated. The sports world is an integrated world. And when I think about that, you talked about golf and how they maybe don't have that social responsibility. The LA Rams, they have their season tickets out right now. I think the cheapest ticket you can buy for a Rams game is about $350. Now that's in the heart of South Central Los Angeles. How many good old boys from South Central can go to a Rams game when the cheapest nosebleed ticket, Big C, is $350? I just want you to keep that in mind as we talk about sports, integrating people or bringing society together. If you can afford it, it does. But I want to touch on this in the final segment, Big C. I know I was disappointed last night. A lot of people were disappointed last night as well. The Hall of Fame game wasn't rained out. It wasn't snowed out. Something happened with the field conditions, and they did not play the game because of that, Big C. I think that's a black eye for the NFL. How could something like that happen, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you could have gotten any high school groundskeeper to take care of this field. Now, how many pro games they play there? One?
Yeah, one.
Year?
Yeah, one a year.
One pro game a year. The Hall of Fame game. A signature game to celebrate those players that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, Charlton. You basically cut short their ceremony.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to tell me there was no surrounding field in Canton that you couldn't have played that game tonight, Charlton?
Yeah.
How far is Cleveland away? 30, 40 miles?
Yeah.
You could have moved that game to Brown Stadium. Don't take the history of this pageantry away from Hall of Famers. The NFL, if you want to talk about debauchery, that's what you have. Now, like I said, you known about this game for a year. You knew where it was going to be played at. You knew which field it was going to be played on.
Yeah.
And not bring in an NFL grounds crew. Now, I remember several years ago, the 49ers were playing a game, and they brought in this grass specialist where they replaced the turf.
Yeah.
With all of the rain, because Candlestick, 3Com, whatever it was at that time, was all torn up.
Yeah.
But the NFL could get a grass field right that was basically mud.
Yeah.
Replace everything to make it a pristine playing surface, and you could not get an AstroTurf surface properly prepared for some of the greatest athletes in the world, Charlton.
Yeah, I agree.
And a national display at the Hall of Fame, Charlton. Roger Goodell, if he had spent half the time chasing the ground crew, chasing Tom Brady, and that game would have went off last night.
Isn't that something, Big C? I mean, Deflategate spent so much time and got people so distracted that you have a game that's people all over the world wait to see this because it's the kickoff to the most popular sport in the United States, and they can't get it right. I mean, we always want to say we're all human, we make mistakes, but again, Goodell spent so much time chasing Tom Brady. No one had this figured out that we needed to have even a backup plan, maybe another stadium that's just going to be maybe an hour or two away, Big C. But I think that's a big drop on someone dropped the ball on that one, and that's the real Deflategate. Now, also, Big C, this final segment I want to say is sponsored by Beneath His Wings, Foundation.org. Make a donation today. It's easy, it's fast and secure. And contact Cynthia Evans of CYNN Entertainment. When it comes to promotions, she's the best in Northern California. I just want to mention, since I'm here in Northern California, Big C, one of the guys that got in last night to the Hall of Fame was Mr. Ed DiBartolo, and they call him Eddie out here in San Francisco. But would you believe one of the most famous plays in the history of the 49ers? He said that he did not see the play because he was behind a horse. I don't know if he was talking about the USC horse, Big C, that Alabama is going to see a lot of running on the track. But when he was going down to the field, you recall back in the 80s, they allowed the fans to get onto the field. And he said that when the white Clark caught the ball in the corner of the end zone from Joe Montana, he missed the play. It was a big horse in front of him with a police officer on top of it that told him, obviously, when the crowd was cheering as well, that he actually caught the ball. But that reminds me of how great Ed DiBartolo was when he helped them win 5 championships for the 49ers. And something that's even poignant, the late Bill Walsh had written him a letter, of course, when he was alive, written him a letter saying that you deserve this. And then Bill Walsh's son delivered that letter to Eddie D. What are your thoughts on Eddie D, Big C?
Well, Charlton, he was a local boy from that Akron, Canton, Cleveland area.
Yeah, from Ohio,
and how ironic that a local boy from that area ends up in the ultimate football palace, the Hall of Fame. You know, they go off to San Francisco. They were actually real estate developers, the Bartola family. And they go out and they buy the 49ers when the 49ers were down. They were not a dynasty at that time. They were one of the doormats of the NFL.
Yeah.
But the first thing they did was they went out and found this coach over at Stanford who was kind of an offensive genius.
Yeah.
And this was the same coach that had been coaching players like John Elway in college. So he knew a little bit about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And ironic, when you think about some of the greatest quarterbacks and players in NFL history, Joe Montana was a part of his first draft class in 1979.
Yeah.
And he was a third-round draft pick. The 49ers didn't have a number 1 draft pick that year. They drafted a running back out of UCLA, Owens, in the second round, and they drafted Joe Montana in the third round. And the guy who made the catch, Dwight Clark, was a 10th-round draft pick out of Clemson.
Yeah.
So Bill Walsh knew talent. You didn't have to get it in the first round. Because if you look at him over his career, a lot of his first rounders were his best players. He knew how to go deep into the draft and draft people. And he was a product of the DiBartolo family who brought him in and allowed him to coach. You know, he did what Bill Parcells said long before Bill Parcells said it. You know, he said, if you're going to let me cook the meal, you're going to let me buy the groceries.
Well,
the Bartolos let Bill Walsh
let him do it.
That.
Yep, they let him do
He bought
it.
the groceries. He bought Steve Young in a trade when he had Montana.
Yeah, And
they say, I'm going to bring you in, let you sit and learn. You're not coming in here saying you got to save a franchise. No, you're coming in here to save your life.
And see,
and that's what he did. He brought in Steve Young. Steve Young sit behind Joe Montana for 3 years.
Yep.
Learned this offense, grew up mentally because he sit back and learned from greatness, from a coach and a fellow player. And when he took the reins in San Francisco, he went on with George Seifert to win a Super Bowl. And this was all product of Eddie DeBartolo, Charlton. When you think about his coaching tree, Mariucci, all these guys along that line that he brought in, you can't help but be grateful for having an owner like that. He was the owner before Jerry Jones type owner.
Yeah.
He was on the field, but he wasn't bothering the coach.
Right.
He stood on the field as a fan, Charlton. And the fans of Canton last night really appreciated him, or 2 nights ago, really appreciated him being put into the Hall of Fame because he was a local kid who was a part of them that is now enshrined forever.
Well, see, the great thing about Eddie D, he was 30 years old, too, when he became the owner of the San Francisco 49ers. His father was the one that was actually buying the team, but of course Eddie got the chance to be the owner of that program, and they've done great things out in San Francisco. They're trying to turn things around, and in our final few seconds here at Big C, I want to say that G5 Textiles is a company that I'm working for. We make uniforms for sports teams all over the world. Just did an order for the Orlando Magic. So if you're a sports league or organization, tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. We'll also give back money to the communities. Also for Uncle Phil Knight at Nike Corporation, still waiting for you to get back to us. We're looking for that $1 million sponsorship. So Big C, as we close out, we've talked about the Olympics. We talked about some NFL football and some golf. And also how people can be socially conscious. And let's take our inner cities and create the next Silicon Valleys. Could you imagine if every major sports city in the United States, even just the sports cities, if they had a Silicon Valley consciousness where we gave them computers instead of tennis shoes, what would that do for the American economy over the next 10 years? Big C, I'll let you run away with that.
Well, Charlton, I think more than anything, Charlton, it would make the American economy safe because you'd have people financially thoughtful.
Yeah.
You'd have people thinking about their future, not about the game that they're going out to play. Granted, sports will always be an institution in America. Economics and education is what made America great. And that's what we have to get back to as a society, as a sports-driven entity, that we must make that important. Not play 60, but read 60. Spend 60 minutes on a computer every day, learning how to enhance yourself. Stop getting on the kids saying that they're nerds and they're squares because they want to get an education, Charlton.
Yep, that's true.
Learn how to be a true American. Learn how to help each other. Just like in sports, Charlton, you can help each other in life. You can help each other in education. And let that be a springboard because we've talked about it. Now all the other networks want to talk about how sports socially can cure a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And the late Nelson Mandela proved to the world that could happen years ago in South Africa. And now it's just now being socially conscious here in America after Charlton and Big C have been talking about it and the plagiarism. Everybody plagiarizes in the media, Charlton, whether it's in sports, whether it's in print, whether it's in television, radio, okay?
Well, Big C,
everybody listens to everybody.
Yep.
We are well aware that for the past year that people have listened to us in our industry, and because we weren't on full-time, took our words, twisted them into theirs. But we're here every day on iHeartRadio, one of the largest platforms in the world. And so whatever we do now daily on iHeartRadio, Charlton, it's not a secret like it was before when we were on a podcast. And so whatever's being said, give us a little shout out. Give Charlton and Big C a shout out. Say, hey, this is where we got it from. This is where we got our thoughts from.
Yeah, that'll happen
be
fast.
Be honest about it. Don't be a lying thief when you're on air.
Well, Big C, let me give you a shout out. ESPN came out with their college football lineup. You talked about how the heritage schools, the major conferences, they get all the TV sponsorships, all the money. Even high school football had more games on than black colleges like the MAC and the MEAC and the SWAC. Well, guess what? ESPN just announced, after Big C talked about it all throughout the fall, actually the fall of last year and also the summer of this year, they have announced over 20 college football games from Black Football Conferences, Big C. So 20 college football games on ESPN for the first time in the history of their program. And it's ironic that you started talking about it, Big C, over the past year. So I think people are listening, Big C. So ESPN, thank you for that. Also for everybody listening all over the world, we thank you for listening to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. We're going to bring it to you worldwide every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeart Radio Network. And we want to tell you this, that we thank you, we appreciate you, and we want to wish you a super fantastic day.